I thought I'd keep it pretty informal, okay? We're going to get some great food, there's drinks around, and feel free to jump in and question and debate. And I'm just going to throw some thoughts around with you today about what's happening in kind of this big kind of world of converged media. And I thought I would just sort of talk us through some of the things that we're kind of seeing, and then how do we feel that we as a company can make a difference with you, alongside you, to sort of to change these things for these challenging consumers. So, if anything's working, I thought I'd technology, right? So I thought I'd call this the volatile state of convergence, because a lot of people have been talking about convergence over the last year or two. And as I sort of look forward, it's very exciting and interesting, and all these things are happening over here. But I actually think it's quite daunting and quite scary, and quite difficult for both for consumers and for advertisers and marketers and us as a technology company to begin to navigate some of that stuff. So for me, I feel there's a storm coming. I think it's a massive storm that we're about to see in terms of what that means for us as media people. I think the pressure's mounting. I think there's not only financial pressure, but there's the complexities that we're all having to deal with, new technologies, new understanding, new aspects of media that I didn't necessarily grow up with. I didn't come from a television background, and now I'm having to find out how to relearn a lot of what my thoughts were about television, and the same for other guys. And we've been through this for a number of years, but it's continuing to carry on. So the question I would say is, well, how are we going to prepare for this storm? How are we sort of knuckling down and getting ready for what's about to hit us? And that's a whole explosion of media and the challenges and opportunities it's going to present to us over the next few years. And it comes around this idea of convergence. You know, this whole idea of everything is going to become one. And everything is going to be somebody connected. And everything is going to be digital. And we're going to have to find a way of what that means as we start to think about not just everything becoming simpler and converged and whatever else, but the other extreme is how there are now more screens. And how every piece of media is becoming digital, and all those new touch points and new data points and new delivery mechanisms that we're going to have to tackle, and that you guys are at the sharp end of the stick of having to plan and strategize that. And so, you know, the first thing is I thought is this whole idea of the revolution will not be televised. Okay, why? You know, it's interesting from a TV video company because I think it'll be social. I think the big change that we're seeing from a consumer perspective is the connection between television and social. People who work in the TV industry, they don't really get online advertising, they don't really believe and understand video banner ads and those kind of things. But the thing that everybody understands is social media and the massive changes it's made to their kids, to their family, to everything else that they're touching and involved with in their life. I mean, you think about something like the Super Bowl. Why? Because it's the biggest, TV ad spend in the world. It's the biggest media outpouring on the planet. You know, the average TV spot, they said this year, cost about $3.8 million for 30 seconds. That's a big spend of money in anyone's budget, just for one 30-second ad. And you know, as a company, it's a real proud moment because we do 80% of those TV ads. And 80% of those television ads run through our systems that we have to manage and navigate. And that's a lot of valuable data, a lot of valuable assets that are entrusted upon us as a company. But what's interesting is this year is that 100% of those television commercials were in HD. The fact that we've finally not only gone through a digital, but this whole idea of television has changed. And this high definition, bigger file sizes, bigger video, higher quality that brands are now expecting, or the consumers are expecting of the brands, within television and the changes there. But it wasn't just that. It was the fact that there were 48 million social interactions while the games were playing, 21 million tweets. 30% of those were for ads. Not talking about the football or anything else. It was about the advertising. So this is really important data point alone for why we can value the TV content and the advertising content if it's going to create that kind of reaction. In digital, we're used to sort of playing with small numbers, right? 0.1% click or a 1, 5, 10% interaction rate. And you've got a 30%, connection point right there. That's driven from this quality asset that's driving the engagement over here. And it's interesting, you've got to think about the average consumer now. We're apparently spending 2.7 hours of our days socialising. That's about double what we spend eating. Now, I'm not quite sure how the figures stack up in Spain, because I think it might be a little bit different here. But I think you probably spend more time socialising, but if you're honest. But yeah, that's a big number, right? So it's an important factor about it. So I thought I would talk to you and kick this off and talk about two things I'm not supposed to talk about, and that's politics and religion. Okay? So bear with me. Politics. Well, one of the big changes that we've seen in America was this whole concept, of how America does advertising so well, about political advertising and campaigns, and this whole idea of change. And this campaign alone cost 12.6 million to try to affect change in America from a political standpoint. And what was interesting is it turned out onto Facebook. And people are so passionate they can't keep it in. They've got to pour it out there on Facebook and say, anyone who votes for this is a whatever. They go, oh, you're an idiot or whatever else. And what actually happened in America is that people who'd been friends for 20, 30 years and suddenly refound themselves on Facebook and connected, started unfriending them and thinking, you're an idiot. I don't believe you, I don't agree with what you think, and started unfriending people. And suddenly, a TV campaign or a concept or an idea was connecting with people on an emotional level to such a degree of saying, I don't want to be your friend anymore. That's a massive change that's kind of happened over the last, we've never seen before. I saw this card, it was quite interesting, it's one on the back of a business card. I promise not to unfriend you unless you're too annoying. Which I thought was great, I'd love to have that on the back of my business card. Which I thought was really fun. Religion, again, massive change. That is me in the corner. Think about 2005 when the last Pope came in. That was the scene, in Rome. You compare that photograph to what we saw this year. Do you notice the change? I mean, a massive change, right, from our behaviour as people around the world. You can't turn around and say religion and technology are not linked when you look at something like that.
Can you do that one again? Yeah, I know. Wow.
Incredible, isn't it? It's sort of the connection at that point in terms of how we're all doing. We're able to capture the moment.
Look like the one with the iPad.
Yeah, I love it, yeah. People carrying iPads as cameras, right?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for someone to bring out the TV with the camera on. Awesome. It's like amazing. 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, the iPad wasn't even here. And you think about not just the iPhone and then the iPad and the tablets, but what it's meant for us as an industry is that whole idea of Flash versus HTML5. And so just that one change alone has thrown us all into disarray in terms of how we create and build and distribute and measure and all the sort of things that we've been sort of looking at. And so you kind of think about where you're going to be 5 years from now. And some of the things that we're going to have to tackle and deal with then and the implications. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever known this guy, he's the man. His name's actually Steve Mann. Now, Steve Mann's quite a famous bloke because Steve evolved wearable computers. He started off in the 80s and he's gone through a series of things of trying to create the glasses, right? The wearable computers. Now, at McDonald's, they're not loving it because he was chucked out of a McDonald's in Paris because people got so offended that he was videoing them in public without their permission. And so a group of guys, they jumped upon him in a McDonald's in Paris and they beat him up. And they were trying to take his glasses off him. But actually the thing with Steve is that he actually had them mounted to his face. They literally screwed onto his head.
Oh my.
And so they were like literally trying to rip the things off him without realising that they weren't just a normal pair of glasses. I mean, so committed is this guy to this idea of wearable technology.
Oh my God.
You know, and it's kind of not just sort of a crazy outpouring in Paris. We're seeing this even in America right now. Even before Google Glasses have come in, you know, West Virginia is trying to pass laws to say you can't wear Google Glasses while you're driving. Okay. Which is kind of crazy because the technology was really invented so that you could fly and look at the screen at the same time, right, with pilots, and they're putting in glasses and now they're saying, but no, we can't do it in a car. And then meanwhile in Seattle, you know, pretty kind of high-tech environment, they actually posted a note in their cafe, having seen the Paris, and said, no Google Glasses allowed. So Google Glasses are banned on these premises because they didn't want a repeat of what they'd already seen in Paris at McDonald's. They feel it's an invasion of privacy. And so what we're seeing is this massive idea that, you know, change on any level is emotional. It's difficult, it's hard. I mean, we're all feeling it ourselves as an industry. Consumers are feeling it. Everybody out is aware of this massive change, and it's a struggle. But emotion, I think most of the time, is driven through media and the content and the fun that we have. You know, whether we're laughing or whether you're crying at the stuff you're watching on TV. Video has that amazingly powerful way of connecting with us, of getting us to feel things and tell a story. And, you know, TVs are changing. You know, TVs are getting bigger. I was at CES, you know, in Vegas. And, you know, 110-inch television, but this isn't just an ordinary television, it's a 4K television. It's an ultra-high definition television, which is the next wave of TVs, right? And so they're already showing you what this stuff is, and it's like amazing. It's so sharp compared to it. But you know, one of the companies there was showing 8K television. And literally, it was like looking through a window at video. You couldn't even see the difference between, you know, a window and video at that stage. You know, that's apparently 16 times as sharp as your HD TV today. And it's quite interesting because when I was chatting to somebody there, they said, well look, HD today is like having a 1 megapixel camera on your phone. And think how quick we've gone from having a 1 megapixel camera 10, 12, 13 years ago to a 5, 8 megapixel camera on your phones now, or on your phone, or even the camera. And so they're saying that the television's going to go the same way, right? It has to go the same way. And so you're talking about this quality that is continuing to change. But also what happens is when we look at television is our behaviour with television's changing. It's becoming interactive, whether it's through gameplay or through interacting with the content itself. And you know, the consumers are starting to adopt this on the street. The idea of comparing stuff instantly. The idea of being able to walk into a high street store and look at this situation and comparing things. Apparently 42% of consumers now do this. Before you buy anything, you're driven to go and check out the reviews and social media. And it doesn't matter what you're buying, you're looking at it, you know, apparently 13% now are switching stores as a result of it. You're going into a store, you're checking out the price, you're seeing something's cheaper, and you're walking out the store and going elsewhere as a result of it. It's kind of crazy. And the big thing that's starting to happen now that Facebook's taken up on is said, well, you're not just reading reviews anymore. I don't just care about reviews, I care about your reviews, because your review as your friend is more interesting than anyone else. And so there's a whole load of new data and a new targeting that's going to come out the back of that we're going to be able to embrace, right, from a technology level, you know, in terms of sort of looking at what the Facebook connection is. But for every brand on the planet now, you know, we're fighting against this struggle, this consumer shift, right? People are going out there writing reviews and saying, don't buy. And so whatever you're doing with your advertising, you know, it has to be connected to social. And already we're seeing that in the digital world, they're shifting. 1 in 8 ads now have a social component to it, within the advertising itself. You know, share, like, tweets, or whatever else. We have to embrace the technology. We can't ignore it anymore. The utopia of television is we expect to see this digital methodology applying back to TV. The idea of the right ad to the right person at the right time. And seeing that happening not just in a digital context, but on any screen. And the most prominent screen is the one that controls 50% of the media, and that's television. And so it's huge amounts of wastage that people want to be able to compare. And I think there's two things that are happening as a result of it. That television has the most amazing quality of assets, of creative messages, these important nuggets, these spots that they sit on. And yet digital has this whole concept of engagement, interactivity, two-way conversation, data. And it's those two things that are at the core of what we believe is going to be the future of advertising. It's assets and data. Because it's the quality of television and the power of the data that digital's afforded us. And it's how these two things are starting to converge that are the big changes forward. But what it means is this whole concept of media planning, which used to be quite a nice sit around the table, brainstorming, creative ideas, and some people are still lucky to have those moments. Most of mine are done over a telephone or Skype now, rather than in a room like this. But those moments of sitting around looking at bits of paper seem to have gone. I think most modern media planning feels a little bit like this in comparison. You're working on your own in front of a screen, some unearthly hour, working through that, and it's a challenge. And so for really, I think for most agencies right now, or certainly people working in agencies, it's in survival mode, right? It's kind of like, how do I feel? It's like, I need to survive in this continuing changing landscape, and whatever I've got to do to get the job done, and get it out the door, and keep my clients happy. So I was trying to think through this whole idea of this, what is the state of convergence? And I think you can break it down into kind of, you look at technology. I run the innovation team, and I kind of think it's almost like solid, liquid, and gas. Why? Because if you actually look at the dictionary definition of volatile, it actually talks about how things explode, how change creates a reaction. It creates this whole idea of something that used to be very fixed and that's the way we did it, to just being everywhere. And that's what we're seeing right now. Digital is touching everything. Every screen, fridges, cars, everything in our lives is becoming digital. It's going everywhere and it's creating a reaction, it's creating changes. I mean, you think about it. Technology. Your first computers were solid, right? They've kind of moved in today where they're liquid. You touch and feel, they move like liquid. And you look at what the next ones are going to be like, and they genuinely are going to be gas, right? It's going to be this holographic touch and feel and play with air and display air. I was looking at some of their stuff and it's great. I mean, you're literally playing around with air. But the big thing about this whole idea of air is this whole idea of the cloud. That's the big shift that's happening. And it's the big shift that's happening especially for television. This changing landscape of television is about video in the cloud. It's not just sent up to a satellite and beamed down anymore. It's about it's there and connected with you at any moment. Well, what do I mean? Well, just think about our behaviour. It wasn't just about watching a television screen, or even now being able to take that and download it and walk and watch it on the train. It's gone to the next level. Anybody here ever downloaded a book on iTunes or Amazon? Yeah? You ever sort of put a bookmark on it, and then you've opened it up on another device, and it opens up at exactly the same moment? Yeah? Because it's syncing on the cloud. Well, that's what's happening with TV now. So you're there and you're watching your content on that little screen when you're travelling to work or wherever you want to do, because your video content or your live TV content is watched. But you walk into the lounge right now, and you haven't got to fumble around and say, where was it? The connection point, the bookmark is already synced, and you carry on watching exactly that moment's happening. So what we're seeing is that video content is now being synced. That's a massive change in how we're consuming television. I don't want to miss a moment. You know, you just flick the TV on, it automatically knows where you were, and it starts from that point. It's all being connected. And the interesting thing is that when I'm watching it on here, I'm watching a really small video. And I'm not mirroring it to watch a pixelated video on a big screen. It has to pull in another piece of content and sync it together, because you want that high definition, ultra high definition quality when you're on a bigger screen. So they have to be synced. And so this is a massive shift that's happening in the television industry, in the video industry, that's, you know, that we're going to see over the next few years. It's not just bigger screens, it's about the continuation of a story, you know, that we've sort of looked at. It's an interesting quote I came across. The new broadband population in certain countries prefers PCs over TVs for watching their video content. Maybe watch TV content on a laptop? Yeah? Right, iPads and stuff? Right, we're doing it, yeah? So it kind of asks that question, well, what is TV anyway? You know, it's all video. Apparently, over 3/4 now of global consumers watch online video, whether PCs, connected TVs or mobile. 3/4 of the planet. That's big, right? That's a massive shift that we kind of found ourselves in. And this whole idea of connected television, you know, being able to sit there on a TV and then just carry on watching content that's coming down over the internet, the iPlayer and some of the things that we're starting to see that are connecting. 48% are now streaming content on the television. So, you know, people who've got these new TVs that have got an Ethernet connection or Wi-Fi connection on the back, you know, we're watching everything from YouTube to the iPlayer and the Sky Go and everything else on these things now. And what's interesting is that the studies that have been pulled out, they reckon 87% are noticing these ads on streaming. Again, big numbers. So when you sort of think again, digital, where we used to play with little tiny numbers, and you start seeing big numbers like that, it's about the emotional connection, the video that it's having. TV consumption is changing. I mean, live TV is starting to decline very, very slowly, minimally. DVR, you know, digital watching stuff that you're recording is shifting up. Look at the bottom. DVDs and discs are starting to go like this. And what's happening is your streaming content is going up, whether that's the TV itself or through the Xbox or whatever you've got connected in there that's capable of receiving it. So we're starting to see the digitalization of video in the consumer world already in terms of what's actually happening. We're starting to see this whole idea of connected second screen, where you've suddenly, apparently in America last year, 280 million television apps were downloaded last year. That's where you want to have a play-along experience or find out more content about what stuff you're watching. So everything from the Z-Box to, you know, the iPlayer and the Sky Go or the NBC, you know, all the different channels that are out there that are releasing their new kind of remote control or extra content, as it were, to sort of do that. And we've been looking at that from an advertising perspective. Global shipments, okay? Phones, smartphones. This year they reckon it's 900 million smartphones and 172 million tablets. That's over 1 billion devices that are video enabled are going to be released upon us this year. That's a massive shift. 1 billion devices this year alone that are capable of receiving video. And what's going to happen? Well, apparently 50% of tablet users watch video content. So when you start thinking about the audience reach that's right there in terms of the shift, it's massive. And it's having knock-on effects. Internet traffic, by next year they reckon it'll be 91% carrying video. Last year it made up about 40%. So the shift that we're expecting, and I think of the infrastructure, the challenges and everything that's going to be imposed on that are going to happen as we shift over to video. And this is why, you know, a quote that I came across a couple of years ago is as relevant and more relevant today than when it was said, you know, by the guy who said it, you know, Charlie Ponton a couple of years ago. And that's we're seeing an increasing blur between the TV set and the PC, with on-demand content flowing seamlessly between the two. And came across something interesting the other day, and that's apparently it's quite common behaviour now amongst housewives to watch television on an iPad whilst cooking. I've not done this myself personally. I don't know whether any of you guys have done, but apparently it's quite a thing now. So obviously it's not just sort of looking at recipes, you know, there is obviously a part of that, or obviously looking at how to cook a certain dish in video format, but it's actually watching TV in terms of that. And you know, we've just pulled out a report with DG on the state of convergence, and one of the interesting data points that we came across was 63% of tablet video is watched at home. Okay, so you kind of have this idea of you get an iPad or an iPhone or whatever to watch video when you're on a plane or when you're on your way to work, and you would expect that to be the biggest use of video on a tablet, whereas actually it's the other way around. It's mostly used in the home. And when you look at the breakdown, it's interesting. 40% is in the bedroom, okay, we expect. Nearly 40% is in the living room, as we just said, cooking and stuff. 12% is in the kitchen and 9% is in the bathroom. Now hold that thought for a second, right? 9% in the bathroom. Right, now I'm not kind of sure what people are doing.
As well.
Well, I don't know, right? Okay. I'm not quite sure what you're wiping. Sorry, I mean swiping. But 9% of video in the bathroom. I thought, people used to just take the newspaper in there and magazine, right?
There you go.
I'm not touching your screens every day. That's all I'm saying. But it means this massive consumer shift means that we have to focus on in-stream. And what even we define in-stream to be moving forward. Part of it is the fact that it just continues to attract new marketing dollars. And it continues to generate a greater audience retention and connection points than any digital ad format we ever came up with before. All the gimmicks and stuff. But guys, feel free to breathe. You need to eat and drink and stuff, it's no problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good, no, Thank you. So when you kind of overlay this from some data points or industry points, it's kind of interesting. You look at rich media, online video and standard advertising, you're starting to see rich media over the next few years beginning to stagnate. Okay, it'll still receive its status quo, but the money isn't going to be in the interactive, rich media ads. Standard ads are fine, we expect them to jump and shift. Okay, DR, huge part of digital drive. But online video, this massive growth pattern of online video. And the data point we don't yet have is this idea of rich media video, i.e. interactive video, as the new videos are becoming interactive, not just taking TV content online, but creating it. So I expect, within the next year, as we start to collect the data on this, to see a new chart plotting interactive video versus linear video. But online video is set to explode. 7.7 billion industry just in in-stream video alone. If you look at the global ad economy that's sort of predicted, in terms of it, something's really interesting. You go back 2006, you look at where television online was, and you kind of jump forward a couple of years, and that's exactly where mobile and online are going to be. So online will be the same budget as TV was. Mobile will be the same as where online was. And TV's not going anywhere but up. But what we are seeing is this difference between TV and online is beginning to narrow. And as this massive change, it's going to start happening. What's beginning to be interesting for us is the fact from an agency perspective, when we've spoken to people and we've done the research, is that 58% of agency planners now are planning video and TV together. The marketers have already shifted. They've started to look at this as a combined, converged thought process. Although it's different assets, different horses with different courses, it's still beginning in one strategy. And the industry suggests that this year alone, another 20% of marketers are going to make this shift to sort of looking at this idea of converged video planning. Why? Well, we've already said that ads viewed the TV shows are important. But what we're starting to see is that ads that watch on a video that are are more effective when they're watched online. We're starting to see this whole idea of if you're watching advertising from an internet or a streamed perspective, it's actually even more powerful than just the pure TV ads and the spots alone. We're starting to see numbers coming out as people are looking at the new data that suggests 85% brand recall. Higher brand recall than even TV. So the opportunities that are starting to come out through interactive video are powerful. Not only that, but when people are looking at multi-screen video, and I'm talking about not just watching your TV set or your banner ads or whatever, but genuinely doing a multi-screen campaign that is having a double effect on sales at the high street. And these figures are direct from CPG people. I mean, this is Beckenheiser's manager for marketing. If they do a TV campaign or an online campaign separately, they know what their data points are. You do them together, and they can affect double sales. That's massive. Yeah. So that's a big thing. These are not these are now clients releasing the data as industry points for us to sort of look at. So for us, it's a matter of we have to fuse our thinking. This whole idea of TV and online can't be separate anymore. We've got to collide them together and create these massive reactions. And there's touch points. And I think what's going to be interesting for us as we start to see this converged space happening is when he hits this consumer and creates all these data points, it's going to be a whole new level of data points. Whether you saw the product, who read the review, what you're doing, new points to target, new points to measure, new points of interest to do that. And so just to sort of summarize this, the question we get asked now as a company, as DG, is, well, how focused are you on video? We know you in the online space, we know you've done your ad serving, we know you in rich media, in certain places they know us as a TV distribution company, but how focused are you on video is the question. Well, the first thing I say is, well, we deliver more spots than anyone anywhere. Okay? In terms of the number of TV spots, the number of video spots or online spots that we reach, and the positions and places where we can serve these to, nobody delivers that much video content. Okay? What's interesting for me is when I go to America, and I always have fun going around our library storage devices. Right? We have huge warehouses of videotapes that have been sent to us over the years. It's actually, we have the largest collection of video assets on anyone has on the planet. It's funny, if you want to go and find the first the first music video at MTV, do you ever know what the first music video ever shown was?
No. Could you kill the radio star?
Good man. Give that man a drink. So we actually have that in our storage facilities and stuff.
Amazing.
So it's because we have them. They were sent to us. Can you digitize them? Can you help broadcast them? We still have that stuff. So we've got these points. And so we've made a lot of these things searchable and have metadata for agencies to take on by and say, well, who made them? Where are they? And all the rest of it. So we've made a lot of these stuff searchable as part of the products. And so we're going to get around this whole idea of true convergence, this marriage of TV and online. We think we're in a good position. One, because we started the digital ad revolution. We digitized radio commercials. We digitized television commercials. We've just completed, over the last 6 months, an entire digital process in our New York office. First time it's ever been done in the TV industry is a full-on digital workflow. We invented rich media. It's a fact. 3 companies that were involved in the pioneering aspect of rich media are now wrapped up under DG. We power video advertising. 80% of the highest spend of TV advertising in the world runs through our systems, runs through our satellites, runs through our internet connections. And we're still at the forefront. We're talking with advertisers right now about their 4K advertising. We've already done 3D advertising. We're having to look at what dual screen connection means. We delivered the first dual screen ad campaign. So, this whole idea of ads that are talk to TV, so when the advert comes on TV, making the ad pop up on your mobile or tablet at the same time, we did that a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And we're managing 10% of the world's media assets. For some of the biggest brands on the planet, And so for us, at the core of this, as an innovator, is within the product, you know, the first thing I believe is that advertising is video-centric. I think any advertiser who wants to get their message out can not ignore the power of video. And it's becoming more accessible as the costs change from television to streaming video and online ads. So the point of convergence for us, if you look at what is really at the heart of convergence, it's video. Because it's the one true thing that actually works across all channels. You overlay that with a thought process. I need my assets in one place. I need to be able to deliver them to multiple places. And I need that data to somehow come back and affect what I do next time, or what message to serve. But it all starts around video. But the problem I have, working for a technology company, is people say, well, what technology company? Because there's so many of them. And that's just the display. And then you overlay that with the video. And then you put it into mobile. And then search. And then now we have social fucking companies. It's like, it's complex nightmare, right? And I said earlier on about that storm brewing. It used to be easy, right? Why should I do online advertising? Do you remember those days? What's rich media?
We were happy.
Yeah, that was easy in comparison to where we are now. I just think this is a pile of pants, right? It may look good in a pretty graph, and I've seen it presented in so many. It's a crap way of thinking from a technology company. If that's the best that we're able to offer and deliver to the world of technology and advertising, shame on us. Shame on us, and I seriously mean that. It should be this simple. I have an advertiser, I have consumers. Consumers have different screens. I want to stick an ad and say, hey, do you want to hear about my products? Thanks. Oh, actually, no, sorry, it's not the right one for me. Okay, well, let's take that data, pull it back in, and let's serve you the right ad.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be any more complicated than that? Seriously, isn't that what we're trying to do as advertisers and consumers? Right? And so for us, we've stopped in a tracks over the last year and radically rethought the process and just said, look, let's just look at all these digital things that are happening, from delivery to data to optimization or whatever, and just stick it all on a big page, right? And say, how can we sit in the middle of that and affect that? In fact, let's go wider than that. Let's go really specific. You know, standardization, verification, all these different key buzzwords that the industry has done. Forget about the brands or the icons, or stick them all the names down on a page and say, how do we sit in the middle? But to simplify it down for you guys, it said, look, as a media person, that's the stuff I want. Right? And if you may turn around and say, yeah, but these ones must be more TV focused or more online focused or more finance or automotive focused. Look, as a media, you need that stuff. And as a creative, you need that stuff. That's the simplification that we're kind of working towards. So we started by looking at the workflows. We looked at online workflow. You take your media planning, you take your creative, it all comes together and how we deliver it, right? Delivery is at the heart of what we do. And then obviously then it connects to data and then serves you back. You look at TV, not too dissimilar, except for TV it's all about how do we manage the assets, those quality assets, but it's all about delivery. But there we deliver across satellite and internet at the same time. But you put them together, and what you see is that trafficking is still a core component in the centre. The idea of optimising that creative that everyone's excited and hyped about, but it starts with two big superstations that need to be built. New airports, if you like, for this plan to happen, and that's assets and data. I said to you before about the quality of the content and the engagement with the consumer and how those things talk to one another. And so for us, I'm going to simplify this right the way down and I'll leave you with this thought. TV and online used to be different worlds. They've started to collide. Why are they colliding? Well, on one side I've got this maturity of television and the quality of their assets. On the other side I've got this dynamic delivery and the plethora of data and all the implications. And the bit that we're seeing is how they talk to each other. And that bit in the middle is about mobile, it's about social, and it's the demand for better analytics. That's the bit in the middle. That's where we are today. And where we sit in is really easy. So rather than thinking of us as an ad server or an ad platform or a delivery mechanism, where we see ourselves going is we believe that assets and data are the two core functions that should exist within any technology company moving out from here. And right now we're overlaying that with two workflows. One focused on online, MediaMind, and one focused on the television video industry, and that's what we call video fusion. Why? Because it's fusing across multiple channels, multiple devices, and multiple delivery methods from satellite to online to IP and mobile, all the rest of it. Now we appreciate that right now the online industry is far more automated and the TV industry is far more manual. But by having it in this workflow process, it means we can wrap it around with all our other functions and features and services and everything else we do, some of which are people orientated and some of which are automated. But in the vision that we have is any one of those components should work into any one of those processes. Okay? If I need trading, why can't I have trading for TV? If I've got dynamic creative optimization, why can't I have that for TV? If I've got this beautiful quality of assets on video over here, why can't I distribute them across multiple channels? And that's what we've had to stop, start again, rebrand ourselves, rethink not just the name, not just the messaging, but actually the entire technology product workflow in order to position ourselves to help you to move forward from here. And we're creating and developing this idea of a unified cross-platform, where we take in media and creative, what do they need to do, across what formats and devices, and how do we overlay that with data? For us, it's just where TV spots meet online advertising. That's what convergence is. Spot on.